Welcome everyone to Java with John, and I'd like to introduce John Mangiaratti, our town manager, and he will introduce a couple of speakers as well.
And Beverly, I also thank Beverly for everything she does for the seniors and for the community. Beverly, let's hear for Beverly. Good morning. As mentioned, I'm John Mangiaratti. I'm the town manager. I'm very proud to be the town manager here in Acton. I've worked here since 2018, so I feel like I've settled in. I'm part of the community now, and I'm excited to hold that status. I'm sure many of you have been here much longer, but I'm excited to be part of it and meet with you every month. This is something that we've been doing since 2018, the Java with John program. So I want to thank Sharon and the team here at the COA for putting this on, both for seniors so folks in town can learn what's going on, and for me so I can connect with you and get to know things that are on your mind. And that's definitely my favorite part of this program, the questions and answers. So has anybody not been here before? All right, right up front too. That's great. Thank you for being here. That's exciting. So this, just a few housekeeping things. This is broadcast live on TV and recorded later for people to watch. Millions of people watch it, I'm sure. But I just say that so that you're aware that you're on live TV. If you don't want to be on the camera, don't look back there. And that's all. Thank you to ActonTV for doing that for us, Mark. We just recently signed an extension of our agreement with ActonTV. So ActonTV will be with us for another 10 years, pending town meeting approval. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, ActonTV. So at this program, I'll give a few brief updates. I have some guest speakers, and then we'll get to your questions. So in terms of updates, we're at the middle of December. We're at the end of the calendar year, but we're halfway through our fiscal year. And so this is a time where we talk about 2026. Everybody's saying look forward to 2026. And in our heads, we've been in fiscal year 2026 since July. So it's a confusing time of year for municipal officials because we've been in 2026 for a while. But in any event, we're excited for the next year. And we're going to be presenting the annual budget to the select board in the first week of January, and we'll be publishing it at the end of this month. A lot of work has gone into that budget. I'm very pleased to say that although it hasn't been published yet, I'm confident that it'll be a budget that will meet the revenues that we have available next year, which you can't always say that. We had a meeting yesterday morning at 7:30 with the Acton Leadership Group, looking at revenues, looking at expenses, and although there are some challenges, particularly with the school district and some things that they're working through, it looks like next year the revenue that we'll be able to bring in will be enough to run the town, which is good news, right? That being said, there's still a lot of work to do. The school, as I mentioned, they're doing a whole reorganizational, structural analysis and all kinds of work. They've talked to thousands of people in the community, and the committee itself is discussing things that they may want to do differently going forward. They're expected to make a decision at the end of January on where they're going to go, and then that'll help inform their part of the process. But here in town, we have a lot of mostly building and construction projects. I think I did a cooking show with Vivian over at ActonTV last week, and I think my introduction was that I feel like sometimes we're a town that's been under construction all year, and you probably feel the same way, right? And I appreciate your patience. But I was very pleased to see coming down the hill and coming over here that there was no one working in the road, on Potterville Road. And it looks like they're wrapped up. I know Ed Mullen will give a brief update on that project, so I'll let him do that. But that's exciting. Little things are happening that are progress. I also drove by a dog park that looks like it's taking shape. Did you know we were having a dog park in town? Totally funded by grants, but it'll be managed by the Park and Rec Department here in Acton. And there's a very active committee called the Acton Dog Park Committee that's taken the lead on a lot of that work. Tom Beejan, Assistant Town Manager, has been a big part of that, helped rescue that project, you might say. I want to introduce also, I mentioned Tom is here. He's the Assistant Town Manager. We have Leo Gower, a detective at the Police Department. We have Dan Oulette, the Facilities Manager. And Ed Mullen, Building Commissioner, Zoning Enforcement Officer. You'll hear from both of them later. So anyways, we have the dog park, and right next, and then there's an open space in between that, which is a potential new thing that we'll be figuring out later. on what it'll end up being, but right now it's just open space. And then that McManus Manor is really, really coming along. And then back behind Town Hall, we're almost done with the Asa Parlin House project, so I'm excited to welcome you there in the spring, once the snow melts. So all that construction, a lot of it funded through grants, which we're very proud of. We have received 24 million grants in the last 5.5 years, to help with town projects. So when I mentioned earlier that it looks like the revenues that we're going to be bringing in next year will be enough to cover the programs and services we want to provide to you all, I think a big part of that is because we're taking pressure off of the revenues that we're asking for local taxpayers by bringing in state and federal dollars. And it's not just roadwork construction, it's everything. Our departments are going after money for everything, whether it's a program at the library, or an event, or a building project, or a road project, or the chapel. You know the chapel at the Woodlawn Cemetery? The beautiful old chapel? We got a $250,000 grant to make that accessible. The project's been a little bit delayed, but once it's done, it's going to be, that chapel was donated by the family, and it's been a beautiful amenity for there, but many people couldn't access it because of the stairs and everything else. Soon we'll have that fully accessible, funded by the Cemetery Trust, and a big grant. So just another example. Yeah, the budget is a big part of what the town manager does. We have departments that manage each department, and they work with us to say, this is what we're going to need to do next year. We think we can do it for this much. We could use some more staffing in this area, but I understand times are tough. We're not going to really ask for staffing next year. Actually, they did ask for it, but we understand you're not going to approve it, is more the message. And so I didn't, or I will not. But we're going to continue to try ways to reorganize our departments and meet the needs of the community by just moving people around. And I've been doing that since I got here. I think some of the staff like it. It's hard to follow sometimes where everybody works and what they do, but I can assure you that all the work that we're doing to reorganize people is to make sure that we're maximizing the investment in our local staffing, and we're not keeping a position the way it was since the beginning of time just because it is. When someone moves on and retires, we take the role that they held and we say, all right, they did A, B, C, and D. They didn't do D that much anymore, and we really need them to do E. And that old person over there does a few things and we move it around and we fix it, and we create a new position with that vacancy that meets the needs of the community. So I'm excited to do that. We have a good team that helps with that, and we'll continue to do that. So I covered the budget, covered a couple of construction things. We're doing a big community health survey. Have you heard about that? So the Health and Human Services Department, which mostly operates out of this building, Penny Funioli is the director, and it's Council on Aging, Senior Center, nursing, community resources, veterans, all those groups are Health and Human Services. Anyways, they're doing a survey and trying to get community input on what you all think our needs are from a public health standpoint. So there's a lot of emerging needs in public health, locally, nationally, and we just want to get the input directly from all of you. I think there's a survey published. There's going to be focus groups that they're asking people to participate in, so hopefully you see that and you're able to join. Oh, yes. I just reviewed a press release this morning, so it should be out today, and thank you for the question. And I can give you the link right now if you're anxious to get to the survey. But thank you. Yeah, and again, just check, we'll do a whole question and answer session. That'll be the bulk of the program. I'm going to wrap up my portion right now, and I'm going to introduce one of the newer members of our team, Dan Oulette. He's the facilities manager here. And this is his first time at the Senior Center at the mic. He's here all the time fixing stuff. But welcome, Dan.
Good morning, everybody. So I am Dan Mullen. I'm the facilities manager here for the town. I'm tasked with taking care of and keeping clean all of the municipal buildings that we have. So, it's somewhere between 15 and 17 buildings that we take care of. I currently have a staff of 4 janitors, 1 one of which you guys probably know well if you're up here all the time, Dave Martirosian. He's a great guy. He keeps this place clean and running for you guys. We also support all of the projects going on around town in the buildings, right? So we've supported Asa Parlin. We had the monument repointed last year. I've only been here since July, but in that time, I've taken a lot of time to go around town, learn all the buildings, learn the folks that work in all the buildings and the folks that visit the buildings. I definitely take pride in the buildings being in good shape for everyone when they come in. So, you know, if you guys ever see anything that needs to be fixed up, please don't hesitate to email Municipal Properties. Couple of projects that we have coming up that are pretty exciting. The electrification of Town Hall. So as a lot of you probably know, the town has a net zero emissions goal that we're trying to meet, and the electrification of Town Hall is going to do that for us. We're going to be replacing our gas-fired boiler with heat pump units and upgrading a lot of the infrastructure in the building. So the heating system in the building, the cooling system in the building will all be modernized and electric to get rid of the fossil fuels. And the other one, we just applied for CPC grants for the bell tower on Town Hall. So if you live near Town Hall, you may have noticed over the past month or so that the bell does not ring anymore. We had a structural engineer come in, and when they were going through their survey, they recognized that a lot of the bell tower itself had rotted members in it. So they asked us to shut the bell off. So I'm excited to get that back up and running for everybody. Hopefully we get that grant and we can get that in construction in the summer next year. So if you see scaffolding starting to go up around Town Hall, that's what we're going to be doing. Outside of that, like I said, please always feel free to email Municipal Properties at acton-ma.gov with any concerns you may have, and we'll jump right on them for you.
Dan, where did you work before you came here?
So I've have 20 years of construction and facilities maintenance background. Most currently, I worked for Starlight Building Services, which is a large construction firm in the city of Boston.
What's your favorite building?
I do enjoy the senior center. It's always nice coming up here. Everybody's always got a smile on their face. I'd probably have to say my favorite building is the library, specifically the old portion of the library, so the front of the library. It's very historic, and there's a lot of, not Civil War, Revolutionary War memorabilia and artifacts in there. So some really cool stuff. If you haven't been up there, I would definitely suggest going up and taking a look. There's everything from swords that generals carried to bullets that had been fired and found in trees and all sorts of stuff. And that's kind of one of the things I really like about working in the town of Acton is a lot of our municipal buildings are historic, right? So there's, not only am I repairing and maintaining the buildings, but I'm trying to keep them period correct. Right? So I can't just go to Lowe's and buy a piece of PVC trim if I need a piece of trim. So I'm having to source oak and ash and all sorts of cool materials to work with. So it's one of the great things about working in the town of Acton.
Nice work, Dan.
Thank you, everyone.
Dan's doing a great job. He's not only managing facilities, but I heard the other day that he actually hung a railing up over at the one of the grab bars. I heard you hung a grab bar up yesterday at the old library, the other library in West Acton.
The little library.
Yeah. He's very hands-on, but thank you, Dan. So, yeah, as mentioned, I can't believe he said which building was his favorite. That's like when you ask which is your favorite kid, you're not supposed to say, right? But I appreciate the honesty. And I think the library is really cool, too. Okay, well, on the theme of building, I'm going to introduce the next speaker, who's a municipal official who's worked here for a few years. He's our building commissioner and recently has also become our zoning enforcement officer. I'd like to welcome Ed Mullen.
Thank you, John. Hi, everybody. As John said, Ed Mullen, Building Commissioner. I've been here almost 3 years. It's been a lot of fun. I came via Littleton. I was a building commissioner over there first. It's also where I reside. I've also, before I became a building commissioner, was a contractor, and I did a lot of work here in town. My office used to be here in town, and some of the projects you might be familiar with, I was a contractor that built the True West Brewery, and a lot of the buildings over there, the Twin Seafoods facility, as well as a few new homes. I have a department of 5. We have 2 full-time and 3 part-time positions, and then a zoning admin that bounces between planning and building. I think we're going to issue somewhere around 3,500 permits this year, including building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, gas permits. We generate some revenue that goes into the general fund. Additional revenues will go into what we call a revolving fund that supports some other positions in town. I believe the fire prevention officer is funded through that position as well. So what we take in, we try to spread out and support other services within the town. Some of the important things we do enforcing the building code, the most important thing that we stress is life safety in commercial buildings or public buildings, and the fire code. And some of the interesting projects that are meeting these today's standards, safety standards, are the Powder Mill Road project across the way here. I know it was a nightmare with traffic for everybody to deal with, but it is a pretty impressive facility that's being put up, and it does meet all the ADA requirements, the Architectural Access Board requirements, as well as life and safety requirements. 235 units, I think, are going to be in there, and they're going to go for temporary occupancy for the first of the year on their first 2 cubes. So coming up real soon, those units will be for rent, which is pretty exciting. They did a really bang-out job on the site itself to get those buildings up so quickly and ready for tenants. Again, another exciting project is McManus Manor over on Main Street, across the street from the public safety facility. An interesting note, I have a 19-year-old son who's an apprentice plumber, and it's his first big job that he's got to work with on a company. So when I check on that job, I get to check on my son too. So, but he's into plumbing, so I don't get to inspect his work. Our plumbing inspector does, and he makes sure he's doing it correctly. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about projects or anything else, or any building code questions, solar questions, installation questions. I'm happy to field.
What about that big solar field they just built on the Grace property?
Over on Independence Way. Yeah, so that got their, what they call, so with solar, when it gets completed, instead of getting a certificate of occupancy, they get a certificate of completion that goes out to either Eversource or National Grid. And in this scenario, there's significant amount of electricity that's being generated through that, and it benefits the town significantly on our surcharges. Yes, sir.
One of the challenges that people face, in doing projects around the house is trying to vet contractors. What services can the town provide with respect to vetting contractors?
So that's a good question, and unfortunately becomes a...
You could repeat it too.
Yeah, so the question was, what resources can the town provide to reference or refer good contractors out the door? It's a conflict of interest. So if we are asked that question, typically we say, we really can't answer that question. There are a lot of good contractors that work locally through Acton and surrounding towns, and there's nobody that we would or wouldn't recommend, but definitely check their references.
Could you tell us who's a bad one?
So you can actually look up on the state website. You can look up a contractor either through the state website, and then if you go to the consumer side of it, they can tell you if there's been any complaints filed against any contractor.
Can you provide a list without any comment?
So we could create a list of local contractors from the town of Acton that are currently licensed to do general contracting. And so under the general contractor license, we call it a CSL. There's also another registration that's required called HIC, which is a home improvement contractor registration. And every licensed contractor that's doing work in a residential home has to also be registered with an HIC. And what that does is every time they renew that registration, their money goes into a guarantee fund. So if they fail to provide adequate services or complete the work, the homeowner is entitled to up to $10,000 from that guarantee fund. So when we take a permit application in, we look to see that their license is current, that they have an HIC registration, and that way you're protected. A lot of times, contractors that don't carry that or don't have a full license will say, hey, I can do the work, but you're the homeowner, you can pull the license. Pull the permit, which is true, and you can, or if you want to do the work yourself, you can. But we always caution a homeowner that's going to hire a handyman or an unlicensed contractor that you're now responsible for the work that they're doing. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I can do the work, but I want you to pull a permit, we always recommend that you think twice about that, because you're now responsible for the work that they're doing. And if they don't meet the requirements, we can't go after them. But if they're the contractor, we say now we work for you to make sure that they do the job that you've hired them to do correctly. So a licensed contractor gives us leverage to push or pull on them to make sure that they do the things correctly. So, yes?
Does the town have a long-term lease on this building? We don't own it, or?
That's a good question for the manager.
Thank you. Good question. So the town has a long-term lease with 5-year renewals, and the 5-year renewal is happening in July. And so until we have another plan, we're going to keep it going, because it's worked out really well. It's an awesome facility, and until we have a better plan, this is where we're going to be. Thanks.
Sure, go ahead.
Are you seeing a lot of ADUs in town or permits for them?
Good question. So the question is, have we seen a lot of ADUs, accessory dwelling unit applications for new builds? They are pouring in. We are really excited to see it. It's something that I think as a land use department, so under the land use department, there's 4 divisions. There's building, conservation, health, and planning. And in that, we work really hard as a team to create opportunities for people to have other options for housing, and also economic development issues, where you can have businesses in other areas that were maybe not permitted before. But yes, we're seeing a lot of ADU applications, certainly a ton of questions, and we're very excited about it. So the state law that was approved and passed, you can have an accessory dwelling unit by right on a residential neighborhood, attached or detached, up to 900 square feet. And they lessened the energy code slightly, because the energy code kind of became a little restrictive or cost prohibitive on that, so they lightened the requirements on the energy code. And I'd say the biggest challenge to an ADU in any community like this is compliance with Title V. And Title V is the septic system. So that is probably the bigger challenge to getting an ADU in, but we're excited to see them come in, and we're happy to help you go through the process. So
When you say pouring in, how many, like 1 a week or 1 a month?
I would say close to 1 a week at this point, maybe 1 every other week, but yeah, we're seeing them for sure. And there's a portion of the bylaw that's specific to Acton, whereas if a detached accessory structure, like a garage or a barn, existed before 2019, you can use that facility in up to 2,000 square feet. So it's not limited by size if you had an existing detached accessory structure. Yeah.
Question in the back there.
Yes. Biggest challenge for my department? Every day is a different challenge, I would say. I don't think we have one specific challenge that outweighs the other. I have to say we're really fortunate in this area. We have a lot of professionals that we deal with, so enforcement hasn't been a real big issue for us here. I worked for the city of Newton, and we used to chase a lot of contractors, that were fly-by-night and created a lot of issues and, created safety concerns on a lot of projects. In Acton, we have a lot of professionals that come in, do great jobs. So enforcement or compliance, excuse me, is, we tell people we want to help them be successful with a project, including the contractors. So we're here to help. We're not here to make it harder for them. We're here to answer questions. We're here to walk them through the process. And the code is constantly changing. Every day we're learning new things, and so are they. So sometimes it's us putting our heads together with the homeowners and the contractors to say, this is how I read it, how do you read it, and come to a consensus on that. And then a lot of times we'll either take it to the state or ask, town council what the interpretation might be. So.
What about the fossil fuel free? How is that impacting the work that you're doing?
So the FFF, as we call it, the fossil fuel free bylaw, requires any new construction or a level 3 renovation, which is basically taking an old building and making it new, is required to go fossil fuel free, meaning no gas, no oil, no propane in the structure. It's going to be done with, high efficiency heat pumps. And it had been a challenge on a couple of bigger projects, but I think the requirements to go fossil fuel free, or to even apply for the waiver to not be fossil fuel free, are so challenging, and the requirements of the energy code really direct you kind of into that avenue anyway through the code. So the few waivers that we've seen come in, only one's been granted, and it was more of a cultural request because the family wanted to cook with gas. They had all of their pots and pans and equipment for cooking for that, and it was part of their culture that they always cooked with an open flame. So the select board is the authority that does, I'm the one, they apply to me for the waiver. I send it to the select board. They're the elected officials who can make it, they're 5 people, not one person making the determination. So they granted that waiver, but then we had a tennis facility that's going to be constructed, and they also applied for a waiver. And they continued it without a finding because they decided to comply with the requirement. So.
Oh, we have one more question.
Sure.
Is Acton making any efforts toward reducing the cost of electricity in Acton? As, when we moved here recently, we also looked at Concord, and Concord cost per megawatt was quite a bit lower than Acton. Is there anything being, considered?
Thank you. Are you Al? Are you Al? Oh, someone called this morning looking for me with that same question, so I didn't know if you came here to ask it again. Someone named Al. Sorry. What is your name, now that I said that?
Nelson.
Okay, Nelson. Thank you for the question. Concord has a municipal light plant, which means they manage all the light poles and the wires throughout the whole town. Littleton has that also. Acton does not. So we rely on the regulated utility to provide electricity to our residents. And here it's Eversource. Say what you like about Eversource, or say what you want about Eversource. They deliver electricity, and usually the lights usually turn on. I think it's more expensive than it would be in Concord if they had that different setup, which from a practical standpoint, it would be very challenging to adopt that model now. It's kind of too late. I think, in my opinion. I'm not an expert on the matter, but I think it's too late for us to adopt that model. So we're stuck with the market. And what we're doing about it is we do a community aggregation where we go out to the market as a group and say, all right, we have 9,000 households, more or less. And if, hey, energy companies, what would you give us for a supply rate? And it's usually pretty competitive. There is options to green up. If you want to be 100% green, it's a little bit more. But if you don't want to be 100% green, I think it's pretty competitive. And I think in most cases, it's better than the Eversource supply rate. In terms of the distribution rate, we're at the mercy of the regulators, which is the DPU, and what they push against the regulated utilities, which is Eversource. So we're doing everything within our control, I guess I would say, to try to help with the cost, but it's a big one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any easy questions? Yes.
What about the finance award that Ellie won?
Oh, thank you. Softball, yes. So we're very proud of the finance team that we have here in Acton. Professionals. We've had a lot of turnover, and we've brought in people that are excellent, just like the ones that left. And every year we file reports, we get an audit, and then we publish the audit online. Does anybody know that? If you want to look at town audit, just go to actonma.gov/budget, and you can read it. It's kind of boring, but you can read the whole thing if you want. But because the audit report is kind of, well, John likes the audit report, but because it's hard to read, we also publish a document called the Popular Annual Financial Report. It's meant to be for the people. It's 5 pages instead of 100 pages. And it's got graphs and pictures, and it's easy to read. And so it's basically taking the audit and putting it into an easily digestible form. We started doing this a few years ago. Ellie Anderson is our budget director, and she's taken over that project, and she published it again for us this past year. and we won an award for meeting all the requirements and being an awesome report from the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. So thank you for that. We're very proud of our reporting. Yes.
May we ask you questions now?
You're dismissed. Nice work, Ed. Yes.
I have a couple, first of all, thank
you
you
want
very
the mic?
much for being here and making yourself available and inviting these two very intelligent men to give us information. But I have two questions. First of all, the new direction going down Main Street 27, where you get right after the mobile gas station or whatever that Acton gas station is, and the new entranceway onto Prospect.
Yes, Prospect Street.
It is horrible because you come in and you have to, there's that bump out, which is ridiculous, and it's gonna be destroyed with the plows, and you have to swing to go around, and come this winter, we're just gonna end up in that gentleman's front yard. So that has please to be corrected.
Okay.
Also, the light on Kelly's Corner, the main,
Yeah.
Yep.
way too long, both directions, it's too long. Also, the light coming out of CVS is way too long.
Yeah.
And that's-
Yeah. Okay, those are good ones.
They need sensors at those.
Yeah, they have sensors. They're just not.
working.
They haven't been programmed yet because the project is still under construction. So.
But that getting onto Prospect Street is ridiculous.
So thank you. So that Prospect Street, I'll start with Prospect Street, then I'll go into Kelly's Corner because I forgot to mention it. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. Prospect Street, if you remember, the town approved that design after looking at several options. One option was a rotary. People get scared of rotaries, but that was one thing that they looked at there. They looked at a stoplight, they looked at a rotary, they looked at all kinds of different ways to reconfigure the intersection. If you remember, it was a pretty strange layout to begin with. And so we were working with what we had. So we couldn't just tear the whole thing up. What we did was created the safest condition, which there's things that I've heard about it is that people say, you have to slow down to get through it. Okay, good. Yes, mission accomplished. We want you to slow down and take your time getting through it. I understand. There's a few things, like if you're driving back up this way and you want to take a left onto Prospect, since it's so narrow, the curbing, it's a little bit hard to see if that's the way you're supposed to go or if it's the curbing. So I've talked to the DPW about that, and we're going to see if there's something we can do to just even a post or something, just so you know it's not the way to go in. There's little things we can do to adjust it, but that's the intersection that was approved and designed, and it's safer. It's definitely different, and some people don't like it. I appreciate your understanding. So with Kelly's Corner, but look at where we were 2 years ago, and then stop for, if you can, look at where we were 6 years ago. I don't know about that. Like if you tried to go to 490 Route 2 rather.
I've been doing it for 49 years.
At 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, you would be backed up past the Discovery Museum. And that was just one little thing. There's all kinds of things that were unsafe, or that wasn't unsafe, that was just congestion, but there was a lot of unsafe things about it. The community for a decade, and then with their heads on a table and drawings, like 5 years, with the Kelly's Corner Steering Committee, came up with a design. The design was vetted up and down. It went to town meeting, didn't pass, came back to town meeting, did pass. The design was developed by the people. And it was approved by the people, and then we handed it to the state and said, build this for us. So what they're building is what we asked them to build. It's still not done yet. We're not halfway through. We're more than halfway through, thankfully. But we didn't even have working pavement until a month and a half ago, right? So now that we have pavement on the ground, people think it's done. It's not done. There's a lot of work that still has to be done, if you can believe it. They said they're going to be done by June. And I hope they'll be done by May, because I feel like they should be able to wrap it up. But if you remember, there's going to be street islands coming into every approach. So that's going to change the whole layout. It's going to change the traffic pattern. It's going to change the way people move through it. And there'll be turning lanes that, like, they should have marked, if you're coming from Town Hall going towards this place, and you want to take a left to go down to Starbucks, for example, or CVS, there's a turn lane, there's a turn lane right there at the gas station and TC Lando's. But it's not marked as a turn lane, so people don't know it. I mean, hopefully they know now, but that's how you go left. You can't go left at the main intersection anymore. At least you're not supposed to. So that was a design of the project that everyone at town meeting and everyone that worked on it for years wanted and approved. Another thing that I hear a lot about is the merging into one lane after you get through the intersection. I mean, it's not fun, but it's what was designed. It's what happens in intersections all over Massachusetts and all over Acton. It's just a new one that we're not used to. And once they have the lanes marked with dashes and dots and stripes and lines and all that stuff, it's still going to require safe driving, but which is what we want. But it's going to be different. So, and I get the frustration with the lights. Corey York is our public works director. He goes out there on a periodic basis, and he'll just sit and observe how everything's going, and then he'll write a very thoughtful email to the state engineers and say, hey, I noticed the timing on the this and the that, and very, very engineering specific recommendations to try to get them to adjust it. And they make little adjustments here and there, but in the end, I think the programming is going to be a work in progress. And again, I appreciate your frustration. And I think there was one period where there was the pedestrian thing was cycling through every time, even if there was no pedestrian. It's just a matter of fixing it. So they fixed it, and then other issues come up, and they have to fix those. So it's still under construction. That's what I keep saying. It feels like it should be done, but it isn't. And I ask for your patience. And if you have an issue with that, if you have a specific timing request, which I've received a few, excuse me, I forward those to the state also, and they try to, I try to get them to do stuff. The problem for me is that I get a lot of things that people ask me to do on that project, and if I ask the state to do all the things that people ask me to do, I'm concerned that it won't get the attention that it needs. So I need to sort of filter what is the highest priority, safety first things. Like I got a lot of complaints about the debris out in front of Charter Road and the tennis courts on near the junior high. And I think they were supposed to take care of that today, so hopefully they're doing it right now. But things like that, I'm happy to try to get them to work on. But in the end, the sidewalks are, I would say, 75 to 80% done, and they look great, the ones that are done. And some of the features, there's going to be a bus shelter over near the tennis courts for our CAT bus. That was supposed to be in this month as well. Oh, thank you, Beverly. Other Kelly's Corner notes of interest, we're going to get 100 trees. I mean, if you look at how it looks now, and then imagine 100 trees. And then after you imagine that, imagine 40 to 60 decorative light poles. And then imagine a couple, 10 benches, and some cool hardscape next to the sidewalks. And imagine happy people walking around, and we're in business. That's all we need you to do. Thank you. Yes?
While we're on traffic and intersections, the intersection of Taylor Road and Route 2, we come that way to come here every day to exercise. If you're waiting for the light to change, once the light changes, the cars going through red light in that intersection is just stunning.
I agree. It's unbelievable. People
I
are
don't know what more
horrible.
you can do. I mean, there's signals saying there's a light.
You got to drive defensively. Even every intersection I go through, I never go when it turns green. I always look. And I tried it. I have a kid that's 15. I'm talking to him about it now. I said, just because the light's green doesn't mean you go. Yeah. People are horrible drivers. It's a fact. Which reminds me, the select board just approved a pace car program. So if you want to be part of the solution, we can get you a magnetic bumper sticker to put on the back of your car that says, "I drive the speed limit," or something like that, or "Acton drives safely." You can be a pace car. But seriously, though, that intersection, I've had concerns raised at this very event over the last year, and I've worked with actually Detective Gower and a few other police officers. And since it's a state road, we also collaborate with the state police and got them to do some more targeted enforcement. But it's an ongoing thing, and we can do enforcement for a month, and the next day someone's going to run the light. So we have to keep trying different things. The state is redesigning that intersection, which will change the way that you come back across to go towards the center. Instead of going straight through the intersection, you take a right and then go into a I don't know what they call it, a Michigan, John Peterson knows what it's called. A Michigan turn or something, and then you go around. So there's changes from a structural standpoint being discussed by the state, which will be probably 3 or 4 years out. In the meantime, we're going to keep up with enforcement. I'm going to encourage people to drive very defensively. You shouldn't have to wait 5 seconds after the light turns green, but you may have to. You may have to. I'm sorry. We'll keep working on it.
Any news on the old McDonald's? What's happening?
Oh yeah, that looks great. They cleaned up the front. The sidewalk in front of it is actually done. We've had a few restaurants express interest, and none of them have kind of signed on the dotted line. So nothing to report yet. Yes.
So I wanted to come back to the Taylor-Piper intersection thing, because people obviously have strong feelings about traffic, and the Kelly's Corner design window closed 5 years ago, 7 years ago, but we're in the process, obviously, of getting through the redesign of Taylor and Piper. So for people who want to participate in the state process, where are we in that process, and what should people do to voice their opinions about what ought to happen?
Good question. So the question is, how can people get their input into the state's process to redesign that intersection, Piper and Taylor, in Route 2? They hold a public hearing, a 25% design public hearing, which I can't remember if they did that or not for this project. That is the best way to get feedback, because it's early enough in the process that major changes can still be made. So that would be it. But just writing an email to someone at the state. Write it to me, and if you write me an email with your input, I can share it with the right people at the state. I have already done that, as I mentioned, with the traffic issue. We have shared information with Mass DOT officials on that, but there's a specific design team that's on that project, and I can't remember the person's name, but I have it. So we can forward messages along to them. And our engineer, we have an engineer, Evan White, and Corey York, our DPW director. They also can pass that along if needed. So thank you for the question. Over here, yes.
Any update on PFAS remediation for South Acton?
PFAS remediation for South Acton. From a building standpoint, is the building done, Ed?
Yeah, I just signed off last week on the PFAS treatment plant at the end of High Street.
So you might have seen it coming down the hill. There's a big building on the left next to Dunkin' Donuts, and Ed said that he just signed off on the temporary occupancy or permanent occupancy.
So it's completed. They still have some water quality stuff to do inside the building, but the building itself is complete.
And then the water district, which again is a different entity than us, but we work kind of closely with them. They announced that they were going to be doing a transition, and I don't have an update on that transition, other than the building's done. We may have one from the audience, though. Yes?
So I'm on the finance committee for the water district, and as John explained, the water district is, its own world. So what's going on now is those containment vessels for South Acton have been loaded with granulated carbon, and they're being conditioned. And that process takes, a period of time before they can actually introduce water to the system. And then, of course, at the end, the state has to say, oh yeah, you're good to go, and then we'll be back to normal.
So we're looking at weeks or months?
This is a weeks kind of.
So in a few weeks, they'll finish the process of transitioning to starting to use the plant, and more specific updates can be available from the Acton Water District. Thank you for the question. Have you noticed any different to your water? The difference to the water? They said you might. I'm glad you're not. That's good. Any other questions? Comments? Complaints? Yes?
Okay, so I have a fun one for you. So,
Okay.
so AI is never going to fix a pothole or stop a leaky faucet. But, you know, with regard to writing reports or maybe doing some research, I was curious, you know, if you had played around a little bit to see if AI could make you a better town manager or help with any of the work that goes on around town hall.
The questions about AI and how we're using it or not using it in local government and how it can make me be a better town manager. It's funny, initially when it first started being used, ChatGPT and Gemini, I was excited about it, and then I used it a few times, and I was like, wait a minute, it requires a lot of extra work. It saves you time, but then it doesn't save you that much time because in terms of writing, I'm not a great writer, but I think I like the way I write better than AI sometimes. But I'm part of the Massachusetts Municipal Association and the International City County Management Association, and at the conference this year, it was basically all AI. Everything, every session was about AI, all the vendors were AI. It's coming to local government. We're always a little bit behind the private sector, but it's here, and I think there's lots of operational efficiencies that could be gained with tracking data, analyzing data. We have all kinds of files everywhere, and if there was a way, there is a way, if we employed a way to search through those using AI tools, it would definitely benefit us. So we're dabbling, I guess I would say. Nothing wholesale. I think some people use it to help write certain things and make social media things. But no wholesale changes to operations, no people being replaced by AI or anything like that. But we're using it, and we'll continue to keep an eye on it and use it where it helps. Data analysis is helpful sometimes, unless you check it and then you realize that they changed the data. It's a little, you know, it's definitely going to continue to get better, and there's certain tools that are better than others, but AI is definitely going to be something that we use here in Acton. Yes.
This is a question I have to ask, and it's not appropriate for just the town manager, but I've been a resident of Acton for 45 years, and I've noticed a tremendous increase in people running red lights. And the last thing I ever wanted to see is what happened to my daughter who lives in Maryland, have these automatic cameras. Is there a reason why Acton and the Commonwealth doesn't allow cameras to catch the people that are going through red lights?
Red light cameras, yeah, they have those in they have those in New York City too, right? Or yeah, some places have them. I don't know, to answer your question, my guess is privacy concerns, but that's not something that I'm very well versed in. Certainly as a tool, I know our law enforcement would take any tool they can get to better protect our residents, but we always have to weigh the need for finding ways to enforce laws with the rights people have for privacy. So that's not a decision for me, but yeah. Thank you for the question. I think it's an interesting, and I agree. People don't stop at red lights, and the police can't be everywhere. They can't be at every intersection. We have, I don't know, we have at least, I would say 20 intersections with lights in town, right? We don't have 20 officers on duty, so we can't be everywhere. Thank you for the question, and maybe that'll be something that's discussed in the future. In the state. I don't think Acton will be first, if I had to guess.
Well, I think we're first in a lot of good things. So.
Yes, I agree with that, absolutely. Any other comments, complaints, anything you heard? Anything you heard that you wanted to verify? Some strange things people say on Facebook. Really, I mean, if there's anything you saw that you think is ridiculous and you want to check with me on, I'm happy to help you. In any event, I hope you all have a good. Oh, if you live in town probably, right? The fire department is doing their Santa event on Saturday, which is tomorrow. They changed the route a little bit from last year, so they've included a few other areas that they don't usually cover, which I think is cool. They got some feedback and they've adjusted. They're always doing what they can to try to meet the needs of our residents. So that's an event, that's a pretty fun event tomorrow. There's going to be a menorah lighting in the town common at the, in front of the Red House, which is next to Town Hall, on 16th or 17th? 17th, at 6 o'clock, I believe. So that, I went to that last year and the year before. A lot of people go to that, and it's, you would think that little yard area doesn't hold people, but it really fills in nicely, and it's a wonderful event. There'll be some speakers and the lighting. So other than that, hope you all have a happy holiday season, and we'll see you back here in January at the date to be determined. And thank you for for your patience with our construction and for caring about the town. I think that's one thing that I think working here is very special. I was at a conference yesterday talking to some colleagues in other parts of the state, and they were, expressing how people give them a hard time. And I said, people give me a hard time too, but overall, people here are very supportive of what we're doing as an organization, and they're very engaged. We have hundreds of people that volunteer, not just here, but in all over the community, and people that care. And I think there's a room full of them here. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you all in January.